Yeah, well, Bukaleli as well. He's, he not only took the country onto a Bitcoin standard, but then he raised his own game himself on Twitter and was ready for anyone coming at him.
It's what I love about Bitcoin, right? Once you become unattached, once you release yourself from America and you own your own money, and the price appreciation isn't reliant on anybody else, there's this freedom that comes with it. It's literally why people call Bitcoin fuck you money. Because you get to tell people to fuck you if you don't like them. And if they don't like what you say, they can still go fuck themselves. Beautiful.
And we're back, the world's most bullish podcast. Myself, the Never Look. He's Mr. All In. She's here, but she's never here. Mrs. No Show and Dr. Evil 10%. So, the 4 Bs back for 2022. Thanks for sticking with us. Here once again. Another pod.
And yeah, after Christmas, Bitcoin's just turned 13. It's now officially a teenager.
It is.
Turned 13 yesterday.
It's great timing, right? So 13 years, still going, pretty much intact from the white paper that Satoshi released. When was it? About August time? I think August 2008. No, 2008. August.
It was October 31st. He released it on Halloween.
Ah, that's right. Yeah. So here we are. There's another one for you to listen to. As always, this is the format. All of the information are in the show notes. Don't trust, verify. Go do your own research and follow along, because all of the links of the information that we talk about is all there. Got another packed agenda as always, even though things might be a little bit slow. We're just moving to the side right now, just ticking along.
Yeah, price-wise. By the way, have you noticed, Never Look, that I have something in the background that means you cannot live up to your name and you have to look?
Oh no!
I have a Christmas present from the family, a block clock. This is it will track pretty much any Bitcoin metric you want it to. So at the moment it's just tracking the price in dollars. So what we're $46,007 right now. But you can do anything. You can track any currency. You can even do Moscow time, which I don't know if the meme that the journalist got it wrong. He saw what's his name? Jack Dorsey. He had a block clock in the background, and he has his set to rotate around some things, and it had the price per sat for $1.
Okay.
And it said 1752 on it, and it's in the background. And Jack Dorsey said he was in America, but he thought it was the time, not in the price per sat.
Right.
So he accused Jack of working for Moscow, like being on Moscow time, working for the Russians. And this is why he's pushing a Bitcoin agenda. And This journalist got mean to hell, and everyone laughed at him. And that literally became such a good meme that now you can actually just have Moscow time permanently set to your block clock, which is always set to 1952. So like 8 minutes to 8, just because that's what Jack Dorsey had on behind him. But yeah, it's awesome. I've also got a honey badger hat.
Let's have a look.
Nice Grant Drams whiskey.
Nice.
All the Christmas presents on show today. People know me, right? It's Bitcoin whiskey. Can't go wrong. That's all you need to buy me.
That's fantastic. I like the block clock. It looks good. Really good. So
yes.
Do you have to link it to a specific exchange, or just goes through the Wi-Fi? How does it work?
Yeah, so you link it to your own Wi-Fi, and then you can pick the exchange. It's got the price in whatever currency you want, and it's got about, I think, the top 10 exchanges, so you can just pick the price. So I just picked a random one. I think it's set on Coinbase's price. in dollars.
Yeah.
So I just throw up there. Oh, look, we just made 46,261. Just went up $250 just whilst we're talking there. It is bad though. I have actually started just unplugging it because it's on my desk and I have it there, and every 5 minutes it refreshes, and it's got a really nice animation on it when it refreshes, and I just look at it, and if the price goes down, it just puts me in a bad mood. I'm like, and literally since I've had it, when I opened it, I think the price was at $49,000. Within the hour, it went up to 52,000, and I was loving it. I'm like, oh yes, loving the block clock. Since we hit 52, we've gone all the way down to I think 45. Now we're at 46. I'm not enjoying this. This is just torture. It's just sat there going, your wealth's just dripping away. I'm like, oh, this is a little bit painful, but I love it. I love it. It's a nice little bit of artwork sit in the background, and it just flicks around. It's a nice little piece of kit.
Nice. Might have to invest in one too. For the kids, not for me, and just leave it there and say, look, remember when you were 3 and it was $46,000, and so on.
Yeah. Well, we are actually wondering what's going to happen when Bitcoin gets to 6 figures, because at the moment it's you have to drop the dollar sign off or something, because it's got it's got a Bitcoin.
That's definitely going to go up. It's going to be 6 figures for sure.
And then 7. Now, what are we going to do then? We're going to have to buy another block clock, which shouldn't be too much of a problem if we get to 7 figures. But yeah, I also bought Bitcoin for the whole family. Everyone loved it. Updated everyone's blockfolio. I store most of their sats. It's only pretty much my brother that looks after his own. Everyone else I look after, but they love their Bitcoin. Nice. Do you do anything Bitcoin this Christmas?
I did, and it's great. So a couple of family members, one works in a bank, and I remember I tried to orange pill the other, and he was like, oh, it's too volatile for me. And it was interesting actually, because this was in August that I tried to orange pill, and he's like, yeah, don't want anything to do with it. And then come New Year's Eve, he was all on it, wanted to talk Bitcoin. And it's because his brother had lent some money off his mum, took 10K, it had gone to 20K, and then gave her the gains back, and then obviously kept the 10.
So hold on, he borrowed 10K off his mum.
Yeah.
And used it to kind of have a free roll in Bitcoin. If it goes to 0, your mom's not going to ask for it back. It doubled, you give her a 10K back and you have 10K.
Yeah.
It's like a free casino bet, but I wouldn't recommend borrowing from your mum, but all right, it worked out for him. And it somehow kind of converted him to go, oh, what's this Bitcoin
Well, now
about?
the brother that I know, he's a bit like, oh, maybe I should get into this a little bit more now and think about it. So it's like, right, okay, tell me about it. But what's interesting is, so I set up a little mini WhatsApp group, gave them the spiel, said, as and when you're ready, I'm here to answer all of the questions. Silence. And so it's my partner's sister. So it's my partner's sister and then her partner, and she works in a bank. And so she's at this moment anti-Bitcoin because she's been told, oh, Bitcoin's bad. And, I've got a lot of unwiring to do with her. But if I can get one of them, and I said, both between the two of you, you're both going to get off 0 in 2022.
Yeah, that's a good target to set yourself. Try and get them into the education side of it. And but like you said, it's the unwiring. Especially when you work for a bank, they're already been trained that if someone has Bitcoin gains or receive money in Bitcoin, I'll flag it as high risk. Yeah. It could be money laundering or drugs or all that stuff. So straight away.
Oh, she works in compliance. Yes, she works in compliance as well.
Oh, to us, compliance people are nearly a lost cause anyway. So they never do anything. They would love to shut every business down so there's no customers. Super compliant.
Yeah.
But no customers means you have no business. And I think that's the same with investments. Like, there's a reason not to do every single investment, and I'll find a reason why, because the way their brain is wired is to find problems and to do risk mitigation. Be a good investor, you need to have a balance, and you really need to be more optimistic. You need to look for the upside. I think that's why, like, you're on the sales side of things, you're always looking for solutions. That's like your program, to look for solutions and ways to get shit done. There's a million things in your way, and it's your job to pretty much overcome them and get to the solution where everyone shakes hands and we get a deal done. Compliance is the opposite. They're trying to rip everyone's hands apart and go, don't do the deal. Like, it's too risky. No. I'm protecting the business. And I think like what you do for a day job really does reflect as to what type of investor you are.
Yeah. Don't mind a little bit of risk, go for it. Perfect. I'm all about that. So yeah.
They'll just miss a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, 100%. What I might do though is just give them a little bit. So I think it's on investing.com, really good, where you can go to the specific date and then you can see what the Bitcoin price is on that date. So say when we spoke on this date, it was this, and then just give them an update every month of, if you'd have invested X amount, it would be this. So this right now, and just keep them updated that way.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? I don't think we've ever cracked it, and I think the reason why there's no one size fits all here, because everyone's individual and everyone's going to be orange pilled in a different way. So some people will be price, some people want to learn about inflation, others might want to go read the Bitcoin standard, some people might want to do Bitcoin lessons in an app form. And it's trying to figure out the people that which is the thing that's just going to get them in. Because like you said, there's so much resistance and so much negative wiring already done that you can't just sit there and just talk to someone for hundreds of hours and just having it, because it all just bounces off. You're like, what's going to get through your armor?
Yes.
And then you're actually listening. At the moment, you're listening and then trying to figure out reasons to argue with me. And that isn't what you do to learn. It's that you just kind of sit there and just listen for a little bit.
Yeah.
And maybe admit that some of the things are wrong about money, and then just absorb some of this stuff. And once you start learning, now ask questions. And you'll naturally just keep reading, and all your questions. If you just literally just shut up in Bitcoin and just read some stuff, listen to some podcasts, and hold the questions, nearly all of them will be answered. And then your next set of questions you have on top of that will be much smarter. It won't be the kind of FUD stuff that we're going to answer this week. It will be much more kind of intelligent kind of questions around, what does a Bitcoin future look like?
Absolutely. And they're all good questions to ask, but they have all been answered typically.
Yeah, you just Google it, mate. Like, it's just there's 10 FUD things about Bitcoin that are just, to a certain extent now, they're just memes. Yeah. And when they come up, I do just shut down. And that's where the have fun, staying poor meme came from. Can you just go, come on, we're literally celebrating Bitcoin's 13th birthday. Not its third, not its fourth, not its fifth. Come on, 13. Like, by the time you get to 20 years, like 80% of the population are using a thing normally by then. So we're 13 in. Like, the people we're talking to, they should be relatively clued in. I've got some people that, like, some aunties and uncles that were pretty anti-Bitcoin when I go back 4 or 5 years. They're Bitcoiners now. They've started buying pieces. They've had to swallow their pride and all their FUD kind of questions and little jibes that they used to make at me 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, they've forgotten they even made them, and that's fine. They don't even remember. And now they're actually asking more sensible questions about Bitcoin, like, how do I buy it? And what is the supply again? What's it secured by? What is mining? How do I secure it on a hardware wallet? I've heard exchanges are dodgy. It's like, now these are good questions. Yeah. This is the kind of stuff I like, not, am I going to be arrested for funding terrorism if I buy Bitcoin? You just go, what are you talking about? That is, what are you on about?
Yeah. a really good friend of mine, actually. So for the viewers, I've got the vid right now. I'm good. You know, you can't contract it whilst listening or watching, so you're okay. But a friend of mine wanted to come round because he wanted a little bit of a surety around doing his cold wallet and setting the cold wallet up. So I was just like, yeah, you know, as soon as I get cleared, let's do it. Come round, spend an hour or so, go through it, set it up, and you'll be laughing because you're absolutely right. You don't want to leave it on an exchange. And I had a really, it was a bad experience, stroke good experience with Coinbase over the Christmas period. So I bought a little bit, as you know, and then my account got shut down.
What?
Yeah, because it put in that I had to use an authenticator, like Google Authenticator, as opposed to just using SMS, two-factor authentication. So I was just like, oh, gosh, I don't want this. So it shut it down, then asked me to supply all of my information. Great, did that. Then they said after 2 days, it said, oh, the information you've supplied isn't actually valid. You're going to have to do it again. So it's just like, I'm not waiting another 2 days. You know, anything can happen. We've already lost 2 days. So rang them up, customer support services. And yeah, it was pretty good, actually. Got through, didn't have to wait a super long time. Spoke to somebody intelligent, told them my issue. They said, yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Let me look into it. About 20 minutes later, all sorted.
Oh. What were you trying to do then? So what?
So I was trying to withdraw. Yeah, so because I was trying to withdraw and it was a fairly chunky amount, it was like, we're going to need to just verify that you are who you say you are. So, yeah.
Yeah. By the way, the Authenticator app is a million times more secure than SMS.
Yeah.
That's why they're doing it, because so many people can get SIM swapped and SMSs can get intercepted on the way. So if someone has access to your account, what they can do is they can look for moments like this where you're doing a withdrawal and then change the withdrawal address or basically just intercept your SMS and compromise your account. So I know that inside Coinbase and just about every exchange, people have had huge amounts of Bitcoin and various coins stolen with two-factor authentication switched on, but because their SMS was intercepted or they cloned the SIM and had the same number on another device, and they wait for the key codes to come through, and then they log in as you. Whereas with Google Authenticator, that's specific to your device.
That's right.
So it can only be theirs. Someone could SIM swap you, and if they download a Google Authenticator again, it would be a different version and a different code. It wouldn't be the one that you've synced.
Yeah.
So it is infinitely more secure. So have you done Google Authenticator now?
Yeah. So I opted for that, and I was just like, no, I definitely want that. I don't just want to wait for it. But at the same time, I was just like, oh, this is a pain because I just feel
they've helped you. They've helped you.
Yeah, they've definitely helped. Yeah.
Because they've made you more secure. Like seriously, like because the thing is, like, especially with phone numbers and with so much data being public now, if someone can identify that you're a Bitcoiner and then also then tie you to a phone number, they can target that phone number and they'll phone up, Orange, O2, T-Mobile, whoever it is, pretend to be you, get past the security questions by just social engineering, and get another one of your SIM cards sent out.
Yeah.
And then once they've got that, your two-factor authentication is worth shit now. Like they can just get in. So I think because you're over a certain limit, they're just going, look, you have to be above this level of security. Otherwise, yeah, you're not helping yourself. It's like,
definitely not.
It's like do you want 24 words or do you want 4? Like, and you've gone, oh, it's easier to take 4. It's just easier. It's like, we're going to slow you down and you're going to do 24. I don't care how pissed off you are. You're doing 24. It's for your own good. It's a small chance someone could guess this, but it's a lot less at 24 than it is 4. Yeah. And it's the same with the 2FA stuff. SMS, you're probably going to be fine. but you might not. With Google Authenticator, they just know you're good now.
Yeah.
Someone has to have your physical phone and know to log in and know you have a Coinbase account. And it's so many layers now. And obviously, if you lost your phone, you'd get it bricked quite quickly. So they'd have like 10 minutes to get your Bitcoin. With an SMS, with a SIM card, you don't know that they've got a SIM card until it's too late.
Yeah. I think because as well, it's just out there in the ether. Obviously, you can't physically touch anything when it comes to Bitcoin. So you sometimes forget. And I feel like that is probably why people make mistakes as well, because it's not tangible. And it's quite easy to, when I'm doing an exchange, a withdrawal, and I'm looking at the long 32 digits and I'm like, yeah, it looks okay. Now that I've done it so many times, and I'm like, yeah.
I still don't do that. I still triple check it.
Triple checking. Well, I copy it and paste it, and I'm like, yeah, it looks good. But if there's a capital A instead of a lowercase a, I'm like, am I really going to check it? Okay, go. Oh God, I'm pressing it.
I know, yeah. To be fair, I know we check like the first 4 and last 4.
That's what I do. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm checking the beginning and the end. I'm not checking in the middle.
Yeah,
all the time. So yeah,
you do have to be careful because at any point your laptop could get infected, and a classic way of doing it is to every time it sees a Bitcoin address be copied, it pastes a different one, which is theirs. So you really that's the classic way of being scammed, is being infected with a very basic virus that infects your clipboard, and it looks for Bitcoin addresses, and every time it sees one, it replaces that address with one of theirs addresses. So off it goes to theirs. And sometimes they can be clever, and I've even seen it where, because there's so many addresses, you can actually try and match the address that the person copied in and match it to one that is similar. So sometimes it can end with the same 2 or 3 characters and start with the same characters as well, but the middle is completely different. So if you are doing big amounts, I would always say, do the 1,000 sats, do the 10,000 sats first. Make sure it gets there, and then do the next one, because that's the ultimate check, right? It's just you make a mistake, you fuck up, you send your Bitcoin out, and you wonder where the hell that £1 to £10 worth of Bitcoin went. You go, oh, it went to an address that I've never seen before. Right, I'm pausing.
Yeah.
Did I make a typo, or was my computer infected? They just, as opposed to doing the big withdrawal in one. I'm still not at that point. That's the worst thing about giving out Bitcoin as presents to a load of people. I had to do like 10 transactions all over the course of one day, relatively like large amounts that I wouldn't want to just disappear.
Yeah, definitely.
I was having to like triple check, quadruple check all these different addresses, and then I'm sending the Bitcoin to various accounts, but they all went fine. Just the more you get it, the more comfortable you get. But we need to do something about these addresses. They're too hard to verify, aren't they? Quickly,
yeah.
It only takes like 30 seconds probably just to double check it, but when you're doing a lot of them, it's that you don't want that, do you? You just want to be able to
you're not remembering the string. You're looking, and then you're looking up, aren't you, to then think, right, okay, that is that, that's that. Yeah, okay, I'm good to go. And like you say, you're really looking at the beginning and ending.
Yeah. Cool. Should we look back then? Should we look back on last year?
Yeah, let's take a look at 2021. Because there was a lot that went down.
There was. And we want to talk about highlights, don't we?
Yeah.
Who wants to go first?
I think you go for it. Go for it.
But have you got one? I don't want to take your one because there's one main one I can think of.
Well, it's probably maybe the same of El Salvador.
Yeah. Having a country adopt Bitcoin as literally as a virtue as a Bitcoin standard, which is crazy for 2021. That shouldn't have happened for 5 years yet. We pretty much also in 2021 had Probably one of the top 50 companies, as in pretty much, I think, fourth or fifth biggest company in the world, put Bitcoin on the balance sheet as well in Tesla. That was pretty massive as well. And it's almost that got overshadowed. That should have been the big news of the year. Proper big companies. We had MicroStrategy before. Square and Twitter, I think, had done it in 2020. And we roll over into 2021, and you think, oh, okay, we're going to get out of kind of Bitcoin type companies, and we're going to go into more mainstream, just big companies now, allocating, hedging inflation in various currencies, and Bitcoin is just going to become one of the currencies. They're going to have dollars, yen, euros, pounds, all on their balance sheet as normal, and they're just going to do an allocation to Bitcoin as well. Like that was meant to be the playbook for 2021, and then Jack Mallers comes along and announces it, Bitcoin 2021, that El Salvador going to Bitcoin standard. And even then, when it came out, we went, oh, is this real? Like, are they really going to do this? Is it all approved? Like, we know how politicians are. They promise the world, deliver nothing.
That's right.
If they do deliver it, it takes them 5 years. But fair play to Bukelele. He pretty much executed on that within 6 weeks of announcing it. They were on a Bitcoin standard.
So I think it was in May, wasn't it? They announced it because it was at the Bitcoin 2021 conference. And then September 7th, we were on there and it was good. So, but everything was, it's as good as they said. It was from the conference, El Salvador, and it felt surreal if I look back, thinking like Jack was there on stage saying, we've got a huge announcement. And that will, if you look back in time, that will be seen as huge.
Yeah, it really will. But you know what my real highlight for 2021 is?
Go for
it. It's the 4 Bs. It's actually genuinely like you three all actually becoming Bitcoiners. You weren't really. I think you were close in 2020, and you were pretty much getting there.
Yeah,
but. Still not really. Like 2021 it just all seemed to click all at the same time for you guys. And maybe it was late 2020, but it feels like 2021 really. And like we kicked off the podcast, and like suddenly I could send you stuff. It didn't matter what it was about Bitcoin, and you weren't just like looking at me blank faced. You would know what it meant. You were like, you get it now. Like you're not just going, oh, Gaz is the crazy Bitcoin guy. Like you're crazy Bitcoin guys as well. And it feels good to be in the madhouse with a few extra people.
Yeah, it's very, very true. Yeah, we 2021 we were putting down big money and going all in the footsteps of Mr. All In. So yeah, you're right. And I absolutely love it because in 2020, I agreed to buy a property, and I think I've said it before. Had I been this convinced now, I probably wouldn't have done it, and I would have held on and just gone all in, and I would have made a lot more. But it's there, and it's part of the diversification. But moving forward, I know which direction I'm going in.
You keep ticking up to 100%, and once you get to 100%, you go over 100%. You start leveraging yourself. I was watching another podcast of Sailor, and someone was asking him like, "Oh, what's a decent allocation to Bitcoin? Like 10%, 20%, 30%." And Sailor's like, "I'm 500% allocated to Bitcoin. I have all my wealth plus another 400% in debt in Bitcoin. That's all in." I'm just looking at him going, holy shit, I think I'm all in at 98%, and there's Sailor doing me by 402%. I thought 100% was all in. He's like, no, push through all the way to 500.
Yeah.
And maybe.
Oh gosh, just thinking about that makes me a little bit uneasy.
Yeah, I think I might be doing it though. I might be going that route, and I think the way I'm going to do it, because I want to get a property in 2022.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm probably going to do is I will buy the property with Bitcoin, because I can't get a good loan against my Bitcoin to buy a property. They don't value Bitcoin as an asset. There are some companies out there that will give Bitcoin loans, but at a very high interest rate and very short loans.
Right.
So you're talking just a couple of years. So a house isn't really something you want to buy put on that. So what I think I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to sell some Bitcoin, take the hit on it tax-wise, which I hate, buy the house. And then what I intend to do is then take a mortgage out on the house with now the asset is now the house, take the money and then buy Bitcoin again.
Yes.
So I take a tax hit on the way in, but then I release as much equity as I can in the property and put it back into Bitcoin and get it working for me again.
Yeah, I think, do you know what the loan to value that you need to still keep in? Is it like 25% or so? So 30% in the property?
Yeah, it's going to be, yeah. So you're going to, there's going to be, they're not going to do 100%. No. Yeah, you're right. But it's a good way of releasing 75% of that Bitcoin back in and getting it working for you, as opposed, because the thing is, even if I was to take a loan out or a mortgage out against my Bitcoin, they're not going to be giving me 100% mortgage based on an asset that they don't even recognize as an asset. So I was already assuming a big deposit of 20, 30, 40%. Yes. And then maybe the final 60, they might give me a loan against my Bitcoin, and then it would mean I don't have to sell it. But the conversations that I've had so far doesn't look like that's going to happen. The banks don't seem to recognize Bitcoin as an asset. But so all you got to do is convert your asset into one they do recognize, which is property. Yeah. And then once you have the property, you ask the bank the same question and go, now I have this asset, which is still worth the same amount, but you recognize this one. It's a house. I can't move it. And it's very easy for them to take ownership of a house, isn't it? Yeah. It'd be very challenging for them to take ownership of my Bitcoin if I decide not to give it to them. And which is one of the benefits of Bitcoin, but not a benefit when you're trying to loan against it and you're so confident that you would give it them. I can move Bitcoin extremely easily. I can just take it anywhere in the world in my head. Can't take a house in my head anywhere in the world. So that's what I'm thinking of doing, which would then put me, well, technically my assets and my net wealth would be still pretty much 98% in Bitcoin, but then I'd also have a loan of the bank, which would also then be having Bitcoin. So that would probably put me at 120, 130% into Bitcoin. I'm with you. Getting closer to the 500.
So, when you do that as well, as your asset in terms of the property continues to increase in value, which it naturally has done in the past, you could then continue to release more equity to then put back in. And, if you weren't too fussed about paying it off and paying down on the principal of the property.
Yeah.
So there's that still as well.
Yeah, there's some options there. Yeah, it's going to kill me. I'm going to hate it. I'm trying to hold off, and I know the second I go fuck it, I'm just going to go do it. Bitcoin's going to fucking moon, and I'm going to be so mad because the house. If I'd have waited 2 weeks, I could have bought the house and had. It's like your mate, the 10 grand that doubles to 20. It's going to happen. I know it is. Yeah. I could have had 2 of these houses if I'd have waited 2 weeks. But if I hold the whole year, Bitcoin will just either stay flat or go down 30% for the year. And I'll be kicking myself going, fuck's sake, I should have just done it. By now, I'd have the money, have it back out and back into Bitcoin. And I'd be back on the train, all that money would be basically back in. And I'd be living in a nice house. But this is the problem with being like having your entire net wealth in a very volatile asset that's in its hyper growth up to 15 million. We're getting old now, and I need to start putting roots down. I got to start like making my money actually enjoying it. And, so now I'm going to try and do it. I just know Bitcoin's going to sting me, but I did my finances though. I did I'm sorting out my taxes for this year, and I'm looking at it. My net wealth is the highest it's ever been. So it's not a bad time to be doing it. So it's all.
Was there anything else in 2021 that you wanted to pull out? as a highlight?
No, we had a good price-wise. I guess 69K is funny.
Yeah, very funny. How funny is that? $69,000 that we landed on as an all-time high. Yes, please. Okay, in UK GB pounds, that's £51,000 as an all-time high. I don't know what the low was for the year, but it was
it 51? I didn't think we ever got over 50K.
Yeah, I think 69 goes to 51 GBP.
Is it?
Yeah, I was looking, even though I never look, I do look. It's not, I will say I do look, but I don't look often. And yeah, I think the UK equivalent was 51.
I didn't remember it going to 51, but it must have then. I thought it only went to 49, but yeah, you're right. I just did it then. $69,000 is 51 grand. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have reached the 50K in pounds. That's quite a big marker.
Yeah, that's it. Because from the other end, that's what I was thinking. I was just like, we've gone over 50K. It's a psychological thing, isn't it, of breaking that barrier, which is what happened when we broke the $50,000 mark as well. So I think this year would be great to see $100,000 broken, all being well. But we'll see.
Is that your prediction for this year? Because I think, if looking back when we first did one of these shows, my end of year for 2021 was 750K.
You said 750. I think it was when we were just the two of us, actually. I think it was, pod number 2.
What was yours? Was yours 140?
250 or something like that.
Yeah, you doing stock to flow, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was pretty much doing stock to flow as well, but I was looking at the top end of stock to flow because 288 was supposed to be about the average for the bull run.
Yep.
But if it overshoots the bull run, then it could have gone as high as 750. So what are we thinking for 2022?
2022. So we've got a couple of predictions, don't we? So we have 2, 4, and no, I think you said 0 country.
No, I said it's potentially 0, but I went with 2.
Yeah. So we've got 2, 4, and 6 in terms of countries. We could also have some companies, so some additional companies that put Bitcoin on their balance sheet as well. And obviously it's got to be fairly major, or some companies of significance that will put Bitcoin on their balance sheets. But in terms of price, I'm going to stick with my 250.
You're saying 250 for 2022, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to actually rein in, because I actually do think my prediction of 750 was based on the fact that I still thought we were going to do 87% drawdowns. Because that was way too high. Like 750 or even 250 last year would have been way too high, and we'd have then done an 87% correction and a 3-year bear market would follow. But instead, we did a 50% year pretty much. I think we started the year at about 25, 30K in dollars. We've ended it around 45 to 50,000. Obviously with some big peaks and troughs in the middle there, but over the course of the year, it was about 50 to 60% gains in a year. This actually does look like, and weirdly, yourself and Dr. 10% said this at the beginning of the year, whereas because we've got more institutional investors now, we've got companies, they do seem to just be buying and holding larger amounts more, but they also don't have FOMO. They take longer to press buy. They look for the markets to settle out, and I think they're DCAing in. They're not doing huge buys in one go. So I think what it may have done is it's matured the market a little bit. And that could well mean now that Bitcoin is in its final cycle. We're in the super cycle now, where it is up only. We don't go up crazy fast like we've been doing previously. We just go up 50 to 100% per year. And it just keeps on ticking up. And maybe that's what happens. And we still do 20, 30, 40% drawdowns occasionally, but we'll never do another 87% again, potentially, because we're being more mature with our going up. There's lots of resistance baked in. Big institutional investors are up there, and they're taking their quick gains. When every time Bitcoin pumps 20 or 30%, there's a load of big institutional investors selling off that 20-30% that they've quickly made, which is suppressing the price, but it's actually making us more stable because they're weak hands anyway. They're same for the price, so fine to sell it to holders. But it means that every time we go on this big run up to 100k, we keep getting stopped because there's a lot of people just taking profit. And but to a certain extent, it may have slowed our market down a bit. We've got bigger and we've got a little bit more sensible. And and potentially now it can be, I wouldn't mind Bitcoin to lose some of its volatility, lose some of the gains to a certain extent, and just go up by 50 to 100% a year, all the way up to 15 million. It's only going to take 5 years pretty much if you just double up each year to get to that. Maybe that's what we do now. It actually would probably reduce me getting grey hairs. I probably quite like
it. Well, according to Coinbase, typical hold time right now is 78 days for people that have bought Bitcoin, and it's a 73 to 27% split in terms of 73% buy, 27% sell.
Yeah. I always think those stats are a little bit skewed because they're trading platforms, aren't they?
Yeah, and obviously it's only one platform of many as well.
Yeah, and people like me and you will barely show up in those stats because we withdraw straight away. They don't know what happened to it.
Exactly.
And I'm never sure as well. When we withdraw it, does that count as a sell? I'm never quite sure.
Yeah, you're right. Because my Bitcoin will stay on the exchange less than a day. Once it's bought, and I'm obviously using Pro as well because that is from just standard Coinbase. Does that show on there as well? I'd like to think it does because it's all one. But less than 24 hours, I'm off. It's gone to an address and it's held, and it will never be seen.
Never seen again. What do you think? There's any celebrities coming in this year? Who was last year? The point number one last year is Elon Musk.
Yeah,
he's pretty much the top guy you can get.
Yeah,
you can't get any bigger than Elon, really. He's the richest guy in the world, king of memes, all over the social media platforms. And then
I know Tim Cook from Apple, he admitted that he's a Bitcoiner. He wouldn't go so far as to say whether or not Apple would be using or accepting Bitcoin or any other form of cryptocurrency. Is Zuck a Bitcoiner?
No, he's trying to do his own coin, isn't he? DM or something?
Yeah, DM. So change from Libra to DM. So he's not, but I just can't help but think that he would own a little bit.
Yeah, I'd imagine Zuck personally has, but
to
a certain extent, he probably can't publish it though, can he?
Yeah,
because he'd get in too much trouble.
Exactly, it would go against everything that he's trying to obviously do as well. But that's certainly something for me, I think, to watch. I don't think these NFTs are going anywhere. And certainly with the metaverse happening as we speak, and him trying to create his own currency within there with DM, I just see it's too big to fail. And I think it could afford its own currency within it.
Yeah. The thing is, though, the Facebook currency isn't really its own currency, is it? It's just it's a stable coin, which is made up of dollars behind the scenes. So it's just a digital dollar. It's just like, who cares? Like it might make payments a little bit easier within Facebook, but it's not going to give you gains. It's just going to take away from you like any other stable coin that's denominated in dollars would. You might as well, because literally, what is the difference, right? Why not load up your account with dollars or pounds and send that to other users? Why do you need DM? because blockchain, it doesn't make any sense. It's just silly. If it was Bitcoin, then now it makes sense, because now you have all the benefits of Bitcoin, right? It's decentralized. You can withdraw it. You're hedging against fiat, and outside of the Facebook platform, it's usable. So you could receive money in Facebook, withdraw it to your own wallet, and then spend it elsewhere. With DM, is that? I'm guessing that's just going to be in the walled garden of Facebook. It exists. Can I withdraw my DM and then send it to someone else outside of Facebook? And would I even want to bother? Like, because you're going to have a load of wallets that are DM compatible, and they won't be, because who the fuck gives a shit about DM? So it's just silly. The whole thing's silly. But celebs, I reckon there's going to be some big footballers. Just as we've seen, like, it's the sports people, isn't it? The sports people, they're wealthy and they're in the public eye, and then they retire early. So they're being given a lot of advice about investing and about keeping hold of their wealth, because they retire so early because of the kind of job they do, which is pretty much when you get to 30, 35, you're an old age pensioner in elite sport. So you have to figure out something else to do. So you pretty much front weight your entire earnings in your first 35 years of your life. And then the next 60, you have to, well, maybe potentially earn nothing. So you have to make that money work for you.
Yeah.
So I think they're getting pushed into things like Bitcoin more and more. So I think there's going to be some high profile British and European footballers, rugby players, tennis stars get into Bitcoin. At the moment, it's very concentrated in America. There are a lot of American footballers, basketball players, a couple of baseball guys. They're getting in. And I think that's Jack Mallers and a few of those guys have managed to infiltrate a few big American football players. And then they've orange pilled on the inside. And that's what we need. We need the virus of Bitcoin to spread in British sport. And then once it's in one dressing room, they all start allocating into Bitcoin, start demanding to be paid in Bitcoin. And then we're off, aren't we? And then people just copy their heroes.
Yeah, I think, obviously you remember Ballers. You've seen Ballers?
No, I've seen the adverts, never actually watched it.
So I guess ultimately it's an agency that looks after the sports star. I think that's how it could happen, because they will be managing the, let's say, the footballers' funds to a certain extent. And it would be an agency that holds and looks after a number of players. And that agency says, yeah, we can make your money work better for you because we invest it in Bitcoin for you. Because as we know, there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes in order to buy and store Bitcoin securely. You don't want these sports stars doing it themselves. And so I think something like that will be pretty big and significant. So there's a guy in America called Rich Paul who's now going out with Adele, and he is the manager to LeBron James.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
that'd be a good name to get.
Yeah, exactly. So like he manages a number of sports stars as well as LeBron. So it'll be that type of person that is more in the know that then brings their client, who happens to be a well-known footballer or number of footballers as a collective, and then they all come out from there to be like, oh yeah, we're Bitcoiners. I saw that because it was in, I think my other half, she sent it to me about Matt Damon getting a load of shit for the crypto.com advert.
Did you get shit for it? How come?
Yeah. So basically, it was along the lines of the advert was very hyper masculine, and it was basically saying by people saying that if you didn't buy Bitcoin, then you're pretty much a pussy.
It wasn't that at all. It's actually a very professional advert, I thought. I can't remember it now, but I remember watching that crypto.com advert with Matt Damon in it, going, this feels like we've made it to the mainstream, because that some of the Bitcoin adverts I've seen up until now have been a bit cheesy, a bit too techy, a bit too memey. And this was just it felt like an investment firm or a big bank advertising Matt Damon at the front of it, which is obviously an A-list name. And it felt, I get that it was a bit masculine and maybe slightly aggressive, but
what's your favors the brave? Yeah. And I think it's more of a reverse FUD, like kind of trying to put a downer on him, trying to tell people, actually, you should be investing in Bitcoin. And they're like, no, don't do it. And really is just trying to tell you that you're a pussy if you don't do it.
You know, when you say like they, who is she referencing when she says
I believe the paper or the article where it came from. I'll find it for you. I'll message it to you.
It's funny, isn't it? Because they all, like, these articles always reference like, a source says, or
yes,
Sophie from Birmingham says. It's just, is there a Sophie in Birmingham, or are you just making these people up to FUD Bitcoin even more because it looks like Bitcoin's taking off and you're trying to suppress it? But I thought the ad was quite good. And by the way, my prediction for the price 2022, I'm going to go for 169k.
Oh, nice. Okay.
If I want 100k on top of the 69 that we got last year in dollars, this is. So that's what I'm going to say. And then, should we move on to Bukaleli? Because Bukaleli's got some predictions.
Yeah, well, Bukaleli as well. He's, he not only took the country onto a Bitcoin standard, but then he raised his own game himself on Twitter and was ready for anyone coming at him.
It's what I love about Bitcoin, right? Once you become unattached, once you release yourself from America and you own your own money and the price appreciation isn't reliant on anybody else, there's this freedom that comes with it. It's literally why people call Bitcoin fuck you money. Because you get to tell people to fuck you if you don't like them. And if they don't like what you say, they can still go fuck themselves. Beautiful. And I've noticed this with Nayib Bukele. I think he's always been one of those guys anyway. Yeah. That's probably how he's a bit of a renegade. But he's massively turned it on since he came into Bitcoin. He's in the memes. He's dunking on Schiff, dunking on the WEF, dunking on the IMF, dunking on Biden. and fair play. And so what is his predictions for next year? He reckons Bitcoin's going to hit 100k. Mm-hmm. 2 more countries will adopt Bitcoin as legal tender. So he's with me. There will become a major electoral issue in US elections. Not sure what he's referring to there, but a major issue. So he reckons US is about to combust. Bitcoin City will commence. Volcano bonds will be oversubscribed. And there's a huge surprise at the Bitcoin conference. So they didn't underdeliver at the last Bitcoin conference because he was the announcement. It was El Salvador's going on to Bitcoin standard. So it wouldn't surprise me if his little prediction, his prediction of 2 countries might well be the huge surprise, because who's more in the know than the president of a South American country? These 2 countries he's alluding to are probably South American countries. So he might well have given them the playbook, and they're going to announce that another 2 countries are moving to the Bitcoin standard in 2022.
See, just reading those 2 backwards, so as in the volcano bonds will be oversubscribed. Yeah, I think they could do that. They could engineer that easily. So for those that aren't in the know, El Salvador is known as like the volcano country. And therefore, if they issue their own volcano bonds, they could say, oh, we've only got 100. And then all of a sudden, they get over 1,000 people that want them. Fair enough. It's therefore correct in the fact that it's oversubscribed. And then the second one, Bitcoin City will commence construction. Well, he's in charge of that, right? You know, they can pretty much predict that that can happen. So as soon as they lay one brick, construction has begun.
Yeah, as we know, it's getting up zero, isn't it? How many politicians promise these types of things, never deliver? Like they would never even put their promises, because the thing is that he's already in power, right? Normally you put these types of things into, oh, I'm the challenging politician, so I will say I'll do these things, provide I get in. And then you get in, you try one of them, doesn't work, and you just forget about the other four, and you move on to other shit and go, oh, something else happened and we got distracted. There was a pandemic, there was a war, there's a financial crisis, that's why I didn't do anything. Whereas he's already in power, he's probably trying to get another term.
Yeah,
but he doesn't need to do these things. But I think he knows that he needs that bond to be oversubscribed. I think it's $1 billion. It's over $1 billion or 10 billion, and so that's a lot of money for him to raise. So he's predicting that it's going to be oversubscribed, because the challenge with that bond as well, by the way, is the fact that just holding Bitcoin as the asset will outperform the bond, because the bond has taxes and there's fees involved, and it's not 100% Bitcoin. It's something else in there as well. So it's going to underperform the underlying asset. Any bond will underperform the asset that it's in. So you might as well just buy the asset if it's available. The only reason you typically buy bonds is because the assets you want to get exposure to aren't available in the open market.
Yeah.
Bitcoin's an exception to that. So it is a question of, I like the idea of this bond, but why would you buy it? If you're buying it to make money, you might as well just buy Bitcoin. But then he has baked in the El Salvador citizenship as part of it. If you buy enough of it, then they'll give you citizenship in Bitcoin City, which undoubtedly will be interesting. But yeah, it's a great set of predictions. So let's see what he does, eh? And I like the big surprise one. That could be a nice big catalyst for the year.
Roll on May. Because like you've got, I don't know, like let's say the FA Cup. I was going to use the World Cup, but that's every 4 years. Yeah. So the FA Cup, you've got some sort of final, Champions League final. The Bitcoin conference in May could be the catalyst every year that stimulates the price, or, all big announcements are held off until May. And I'd like to see, to again maybe alleviate all of this volatility, we have some predictability in the fact that, okay, come May time, you go all in and you buy on the rumor, you sell on the news.
That would increase volatility if everyone did that. But I think ultimately, like, because everyone knows it's happening and like the date is set in stone, it's like a company announcing their numbers, isn't it?
Correct.
You know exactly the day they're going to do it. You roughly know what they're going to say if you've been paying attention to the company.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of surprise. It might be slightly under, slightly over, but you're probably in the ballpark. So, and I think what happens is a lot of people make their bets spread over 3 to 6 months before the announcement. And then once the announcement's made, the market just goes quiet again. And you pretty much trade sideways for a while until everyone started getting excited again. The next year's big announcement of, have they made the numbers? Have they overperformed or underperformed? So yeah, it'd be a nicer way, instead of doing the halving thing, which the halving becomes less and less significant anyway.
Exactly.
As the halving keeps going down and down. It's like the miners aren't getting paid a huge amount here. It's like, especially in terms of the net market share, what's coming out of the actual blockchain isn't really affecting supply and demand too much. Yeah, in reality, it's just going to be about adoption, and the big guys are going to be all going to the same event. It's like if you're a bank, you go to, was it the Money Conference, like Money 2022? That's right.
Yes.
That's where you would announce, oh, we're doing this, we're doing that, a new product, a new company, a new acquisition. Like everyone just saves their announcement for that stage because they know all the press are there.
Yeah.
So anyone says anything interesting, it's going front page. So instead of trying to make your own news, you just piggyback on the event. Yeah.
I mean, you know, firsthand, having been an attendee as well, from what the conference used to be and the numbers that it had to now having a full 3-day conference, live stream. I think, if I remember rightly, there was well over 9 hours worth of content online from the event. Everybody who was anybody in Bitcoin was at the event in Miami as well. So yeah, I think it's going to be another big one.
Yeah. I mean, it does make me sad. It's rose tinted glasses and just probably just nostalgia, but I liked it back when there's 100 of us in the room.
Yeah, but there was yeah, of course.
Now, like seeing Bitcoin 2020, I think there was it 10,000-20,000 people went to the last one, and that was during a pandemic, and half the people couldn't travel. So if all the flight restrictions and stuff are released this year, it's gonna be crazy. Like the amount of they would have had double the attendees last year if people could have got there.
Yeah.
So because I would have gone, for example, I'd have been there. I couldn't get into America, so yeah, it's gonna
probably a wise thing.
Yeah, I don't want to that shit on. Yeah, I skipped the story. Sorry, it was you had one in here about the biggest winners and losers of 2021.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so the biggest winners and losers. So again, I definitely would think that El Salvador is a winner, but in the article it had Kazakhstan. And it's strange because we've not spoken about Kazakhstan, but I'd seen this article before. I don't know if I'd mentioned it in the group as well, but yeah, Kazakhstan are a huge country in terms of mining.
Yeah, 18%.
Yeah.
18% of the hash rate comes from Kazakhstan, which I must admit, I did not know. I knew Kazakhstan were into Bitcoin. I had no idea they were 18% of the hash rate. That's 10 times what I thought. I just said less than 2%, and they're nearly 20, which is massive. That's a huge amount of wealth going into Kazakhstan. Because if they're 20% of the hash rate, that means they're getting 20% of the Bitcoin that's coming out every day.
Correct.
That's millions and millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin going into Kazakhstan. So yeah, we've been like, look, if you want to look for a dark horse coming out as one of the big leaders in the next 10, 20, 30 years, for me, Kazakhstan have just jumped into the #1 spot, going from who the fuck are those guys to what the hell? They do this now? Like they're firing rockets into space and all that. How have they funded all this? And it's going to be mining Bitcoin, bro.
That's the one. People, I actually really like Mike Winkelmann. He seemed like an interesting guy, pretty down to earth. He knew how to talk, and he's quite kind of quirky. And my cousin had actually been following him for years because he's into digital art, and so he knew about his everyday's work well before he sold the everyday's work for the meme of 69 million. So yeah, I'm glad that he's made some money from his work whilst alive.
Yeah, no, fair play to him. Yeah, because I must admit, like at least that it was an NFT. But if you just get away from that, he was selling, what was it? Yeah, it's 5,000 pieces of art.
Yeah,
and they were good pieces of art.
Yeah,
and
you could understand it. You know, every day drawing, there was work and effort put into it. It wasn't computer generated, right?
Yeah, because his art wasn't lazy. It's like most NFTs now, they're just it's an ape or a cat or whatever. It's just a punk. Like, it's a picture of someone's face, and they just take the hat off or put glasses on it or change the hair color, and it's just computer generated. Yeah. All his were a different character or a different scene every single day for 5,000 days that he had come up with himself. And so the artwork was good. Would I have paid 69 million for it? Hell no. but I haven't got 69 million to even contemplate it. I'm sure the person that did buy it has billions, so fair play. But yeah, I'll allow it. It's fine. But then the losers, China, controlled 2/3 of the mining operation in Bitcoin, and this is now dropped. What's a less than 50%? What? Oh no. So yeah, so I think this is what we saw. We saw an article, didn't we? Supposedly it's dropped to 0%, but we think they still have 10 or 20% of the mining is still in China.
Yeah.
So they banned it outright, but their 67% has probably gone down to between 10 and 20. Massive L for China.
Definitely.
They're repeating their decision to pick silver over gold, and they're doing it now. They're picking their own cryptocurrency, like stable coin, China coin, whatever they're going to call it, over Bitcoin. And they're going to lose 90% of their wealth again. They've just built up to be the world number one, and they're going to fuck it up again.
Yeah. I can't believe that they're going to do it, but they are going to do it. It's like they are serial losers, and they've shot themselves in the foot for real.
Yeah, and we've got Meta in here as well, haven't we?
Yeah.
The DM coin, which you've already talked about, because they launched it in 2019, didn't they? Called Libra back then, and it's just done nothing.
So this was an interesting one. The Central Bank of Nigeria, and it's ordering local banks to shut down the accounts of customers using cryptocurrencies. Again, Nigeria and a lot of countries in Africa have got so much to gain from Bitcoin.
I know it's weird. What is it? Because they're trying to do the same thing, aren't they? They're trying to do a central digital bank currency like China.
Yeah.
So what they've seen is a massive uptake, and they're trying to compete with it and go, no, this isn't good. We want to be in control.
Yeah.
So Nigeria are going to be the big losers. They're kind of prime country. One of the countries I had in my list as potential dark horses, like Kazakhstan, where they're big, they've got a good population, they've been fucked by the fiat system, but unfortunately it looks like the people at the top there are so corrupt, they'll put their own personal gain over the people, and that's by banning Bitcoin and going use our banking coin based on the blockchain instead. We know what they're doing. It's fiat with a different brand. And they want to keep on printing fiat, don't they, for themselves? So it's really sad, because it's essentially it's going to put the whole of Nigeria back, and they could be taking they could be like, if a country like Nigeria went onto a Bitcoin standard, they are so much better set up than an El Salvador or a Kazakhstan. They've got so many people, and they've got decent infrastructure and stuff. They could really kick on, and over the next 30 years become, a top 5 country. But if they're going to ban Bitcoin, then it just shows that the politicians still control the roost, and they're gonna flounder, and it's sad.
That's the one.
What can you do?
So the next story there we've got is Bitcoin or property. And on the link, it's talking about whether or not you should pay off your mortgage early. And it's an interesting one. And I go down the line of no. Don't try to pay it off early, because the way that this inflation game is working, you can continue to leverage by taking a loan off the bank, and you will be paying less money back by doing so in the long term. So use the money that you've got left in terms of spare cash to invest. You can far outstrip any debt that you've got, and then you could pay that off if you wanted to, or continue to make investments elsewhere in things like Bitcoin, because it is still the best performing asset class that's out there.
Yeah, because it's a weird one, because for me, I'm never a fan of debt, but then I've just admitted here that I'm looking to leverage for exactly this reason, right? Because the thing is, what you can do is you can, like, interest rates are low. So if you can get a mortgage for 1%, 2%, 3%, that all you got to do is outperform that.
Yep.
And just putting it into the S&P 500 will net you 20 to 40% per year. So if you want to make money, just take the bank for every penny they will give you at 1%, 2%, 3%, and then just put it in the stock market and you'll far outperform them.
Yeah.
If you put it in Bitcoin, you're going to outperform them even more. So yeah, it makes sense. The only caveat I would say on this is, well, there's two caveats actually. Number one, the reason why I like being debt-free is because it's a peace of mind. Owning everything that you own and knowing you answer to no one is good. It's really, it's the self-sovereign lifestyle. There's no one that can come in and go, you know, that contract you signed, did you read this bit? And you go, oh, here we are. Go on. Like, what did I miss? Fuck. Like, because technically, like, if you've got a loan out against the thing, you don't own the thing. The person that gave you the money owns the thing, and they have a potential to take it back. So there's peace of mind. And that's why I'm a big fan of just, if you can't afford 10 of them, you can't afford one of them. And that includes houses. And then number two is interest rates are low, but they won't stay low forever. And if they do start to rocket up, the one thing I would stress to people is to say, because interest rates are so low, like record lows, if you're struggling to pay off your mortgage now, be worried, because it's only going up. Like, this is rock bottom. So from here, over the next 10, 20, 30 years, over the lifetime of that mortgage you're looking to pay off, the interest rates are going to double, triple, quadruple. So your monthly repayment is going to go crashing upwards. So be wary of that and make sure you can stay ahead of it, because the last thing you want is your monthly repayable to get so big you're now losing money every month and you're constantly eating into investments. And it's going to cause a lot of stress. That's what I mean about peace of mind. You know, when you take a loan from the bank over a long period of time, they won't fix it for 25 years. They might fix it for 4, for 5 max. They ain't going to fix it for the whole 25. So do you truly know that at the end of that 5 years, it's still going to be 2%? Based on what I know about the fiat system right now, I think over the next 5 years, they're going to have a bit of a wake-up call. And they're going, when there's a big crisis, and they're going to probably pump up interest rates, and the banks are going to be clamoring to get every penny before they go pop. Easy way to do that, increase the rates on mortgages, pumping up 2 or 3%, 4%.
Yeah.
Double them all. A load of people will pay it. A load of people will go under, but the risk reward might be, or the net might be, that they make money. So I'd be wary. I think if you can afford to just buy everything outright, I think you should do it. That's the like nice, sensible, kind of almost caveman way of doing stuff. And I like it. It's simple. It can't go wrong. It's just nice. It's good. It's solid. Is it the most efficient kind of way of making maximum gains? No. But will you to sleep at night? Yeah. And especially if you wait for the right time, right? Like I said, if you can't afford a house until you can buy 10 of them and you only buy one, then you got to keep working. And then when that time comes and you can afford 10 houses and you just buy one, you're not like rinsing everything. It's you're putting a 10% allocation of your investment into property. That sounds fine. The problem is, a lot of the people that this guy will be talking to, their entire net worth is 20K or something. And he's saying buy a property, well, straight away that 20K is in the house. And he's going, yeah, just pay it off, month by month. And in reality, maybe actually renting would have been a better idea, and then put that 20K into an investment and pump up the value of that 20K better yourself first. So like anything, it's all down to the individual. It's down to your risk tolerance. It's down to whether you got kids or not, whether you got how much your job pays, what country you're in. But yeah, the net message is sensible. I don't think people should be overpaying on their mortgage right now. Get as long a mortgage as possible, lowest rate as possible. But make sure, the thing is, if you are doing this, the leftover money, you have to be investing it, and ideally stacking sats. You have to make sure you're doing that. Don't do this and then just spunk it on trainers and a fast car, because you still fucked yourself. Exactly. No watches.
No,
you've got to do the investment bit.
Let the investments pay for all of that. Well, I want to counter that as well, because I've just put it in the chat, but Tom Bilyeu was interviewing Saifedean Ammous just earlier on last month, actually, so middle of last month. And he says, and he's seen it, wealthy people are playing the debt game, basically. So he's like, they are leveraging, and as long as, you can miss a month, you can maybe miss 2 or 3 months because things get hard or whatever, but ultimately they are taking as much debt on as they feel comfortable and then putting it into hard assets, and that's how they're winning, essentially. Now, again, as we've always said, this isn't any financial advice to anybody here, but if you take on that financial stress of taking on a loan or leveraging debt, and you play the game right and you don't try to pay it off, it'll be wiped at death. And that's what he's basically saying. That's what Saifedean is saying that rich people are doing. He's like, basically, play it until you die. And,
yeah, that is clever,
I've seen Rich Dad Poor Dad talk about exactly the same too. He said, I have no intention whatsoever, because once you die, it's done.
That's so corrupt, isn't it? Because you can guarantee
it is corrupt, but it's true.
They owe like billions in debt, even though they're worth tens of billions. They get rid of the tens of billions into their estate.
Correct.
Die technically 2 billion down or something. That gets cancelled because their kids have already got the 10 billion.
Yeah.
And where did the 2 billion come from? In reality, it comes from us, because
Correct.
The banks lost it, and the banks get bailed out by the governments, which is our taxpayer money, and all feeds into inflation.
Yeah. And if you feel comfortable playing that game, knowing that that's the game that you're going to end up, playing, then so be it.
Because the challenge is, for the average pleb, though, debt doesn't die with you.
No.
Debt gets passed on. So if you're a state, in that example that I just did, because they're probably using shell companies and dividends and all that kind of stuff, because the way to do it is to hide your wealth in a company, and then you just sign the company over to your kids. So now you're just like, it's nothing to do with me. They took over the company. Well, in reality, you're hiding your assets, so it doesn't count. So when you die, your estate is just minus 2 billion.
Yeah.
And even though you signed over 10 billion, 5 years earlier, but if you're a normal pleb and you die with 100 grand worth of debt, but then your house is worth 300 grand, the debt has to be paid. Like, the kids can't take it. You have to pay the debt, and you get 200. So yeah, the elite are doing that, but it doesn't, like, the same rules don't apply to us. You can't do it unless you're going to really get clever with it and start putting money into shell companies and all that. And most people aren't going to do that. So I would be wary, because I think when we take out debt, we actually have to pay it. Yeah. It's a funny thing. If you take out 100 grand of debt, you 100% have to pay it. If you take £1 billion worth of debt out, they let you off. It's a weird rule where the more you loan, the less likely you are to have to pay it back. Which, again, we know why. It's because these guys all play golf together and go to dinner together, and they all know what they're fucking doing.
Us. Yeah, absolutely.
So I'd just be wary, right? Because Saifedean is spotting and pointing out a corruption in the system, but it only accounts for the 0.1%. we're the 99.9. It doesn't apply to us. You die with a debt, your kids get your debt. So
yeah,
be careful, because otherwise everything you've earned over your lifetime, you think you're giving your kids a nice nest egg. Well, if you've got more debt than you have nest egg, they inherit debt.
Yeah, you're right. Did you know Safe is a Liverpool supporter?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of Americans are Liverpool supporters. I think we did a really good campaign in America about 10 years ago. We did a lot of tours of America, and we picked up a lot of them. So and Safedin's from, where's he from? I've forgotten. It's a place that's gone crazy. I've forgotten. But yeah, I've seen him on Twitter a couple of times, supporting Liverpool.
Yeah. Cool. Right. So all in all, be careful with what you do when it comes to investing. Don't go all in straight away. Just play the long game. Is Africa going to have a big 2022? This one was your one.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because I didn't realize that Nigeria were on that other list as being so anti-Bitcoin, because they were going to be what I thought were going to be the leaders of Africa, being the most populated place and probably the richest place in Africa. So it makes sense, right, for them to lead the way. Because this is Bitcoin Magazine, great article here on Africa poised to have a Bitcoin revolution in 2022, which is exactly what, weirdly, I kind of alluded to, I think, on the last podcast before Christmas, where it was the whole South America's kind of been infected with Bitcoin. It's going to go from El Salvador and spread. If we can get a bit of a spread in Africa as well, then we really are going to have a great couple of years, because it's the two places that have a lot of people, a lot of potential, but they're being pinned back by the US dollar. If they can get off the dollar and get into Bitcoin, these continents can become a major player on the global stage and not pinned back by America just coming up to them and just increasing the price of whatever by dollars, because they just can. If they move to a Bitcoin standard, they can tell them to fuck off, just like Bukaleli's saying, and they can actually start being independent and actually challenging on the global stage. So yeah, it looks like it's a good article. It's got some people in here quoting that it's just getting normal. I think this is very much a grassroots up. So I think El Salvador has been politicians down.
Correct. Yes.
Africa seems to be, the people have just grabbed it. They don't have good money. They don't have good banking. So Bitcoin's been around for 13 years. People have just started using it. So it's very much the young people in Africa have Bitcoin wallets, and they've just started using it. And it seems to be that it's getting to the place where people are actually wanting to be paid formally in Bitcoin now. It's the same type of problem, because a lot of people that live in Africa, they leave to earn more money elsewhere, and then they do remittance back to their families.
Yeah.
A lot of money gets lost in Western Union percentage kind of transfer fees doing that. Obviously, Bitcoin can cut that down by 100% if they use Lightning. So it's basically the same use case as El Salvador, right? Just on a bigger scale.
Yeah. And they all use their like mobile phones over there. So, I don't think that there would be as much of a knowledge transfer of, okay, what is this? How do we use it? Sort of thing. I think the uptake would be even quicker.
Yeah, I tell you, that's the thing, because at the moment in Africa, what we're waiting for is the politicians to give the green tick. Yes. And it flies, because the people are already doing it.
Yes.
In El Salvador, it's the opposite. The people were not doing it. The government decided we're doing it. Yeah. And if anything, now the last year has been the people fighting it a little bit, going, what is this Bitcoin thing? And they've got to go through a whole educational process. Africa, they're demanding it. They're already doing it. If a big politician in Africa somewhere went, we're moving to Bitcoin standard, I'd imagine like the majority, it would be a vote winner.
Yeah.
100%. If you're a young, promising politician, a great thing to run on to try and get into power would be, I'll put us on a Bitcoin standard. I'll let you be paid in Bitcoin. Like, you're just going to get voted in.
Yeah.
You just will. Because what do people care about more than anything? They just want to be paid good money, and they want to be able to earn it and then save it for the future. That's all they want. They don't want these crappy currencies that hyperinflate away from them. So yeah, let's hope that one of the few countries that adopt Bitcoin. I'm wrong, because the two what I'm predicting are in South America. I really hope you're right, and we get a couple in Africa as well.
Yeah,
what a year it'd
be good, wouldn't it? It's still ready and waiting.
Right. Then you want to do Inflation Weekly?
One of my favorites.
Our favorite section.
It is, definitely. So the Build Back Better bill costing 1.75 trillion has been voted against right now.
Yeah, they actually voted not to do it. But when I first saw that, I was amazed, right? Because this was the whole, like,
I thought this was the plan.
Yeah, exactly. This is the Build Back Better has been a phrase that everyone connected to the WEF has been trotting out. The whole Klaus Schwab said it first, and then every single politician across the globe that has all agreed in lockdowns and mandates has been saying Build Back Better, Build Back Better. And then bizarrely, this bill, why it's so surprising is it got voted for with all the politicians. So Democrats and the Conservatives. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
All voted for it. It goes to Congress.
Congress, Democrats and Republicans.
Republicans, that's it. Yeah. So they all voted for it. They said, fine, spend the fucking money, whatever. And Congress, which we know are a load of corrupt 90-year-old white guys, they said no. Like, they're the guys completely on the inside. They let the things that go past are the things they agree with. Anything that they don't agree with, they say no. They're the real elite. And it's them that said no. And all I can think is that, because then they haven't given up. Like, they still think this is just a setback, and Biden's going to just redo it and get it pushed through in a couple of months instead. Because there's a clip with what's her name, Kamala Harris, being interviewed. Can you hear this if I play it?
Yeah. Try, go for it.
We're talking about cost of living. Was it wrong to consider inflation transitory? I mean, these price spikes seem like they're going to be with us for a while.
We have to address the fact that we got to deal with the fact that folks are paying for gas, paying for groceries, and are need solutions to it. So let's talk about that. Short-term solution includes what we need to do around the supply chain, right? So we went to the ports of Los Angeles, Long Beach, Savannah, Georgia, and said, hey guys, no more 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, 24/7. Let's move the products, because people need they need what they need. We're dealing with it in terms of the long term, and that's about what we need to do to pass Build Back Better. It strengthens our economy.
People there going into their...
So that little clip there, it's just the classic answer from someone like Harris, right? I think she's a very intelligent woman, and she just knows that she's lying. So the question that she got asked was, do you still think inflation is transitory? And instead of answering the question and saying no, it clearly isn't. It's when you print that amount of money, unless you're going to burn it again, it's there for good. She blamed the supply chain. She blamed the ports. Didn't blame herself. Didn't blame Biden. Didn't blame Trump even, who were all responsible for the money printing over the last 8 years. Blame the ports for not getting enough food into the country, which is complete nonsense. And then reiterated Build Back Better. So, and this clip it's the 30th of December. That clip came out, and Biden's bill got kiboshed a couple of weeks before that.
Yeah.
So it's clearly coming back. It's clearly not gone, but it was kind of encouraging when I saw it get dismissed, and it made me think. And it's one of the things that, Dr. 10% asked me on this. when do I think that the Great Reset, in the way that I think it's being rolled out with the China-like communism, when do I think it isn't going to happen? When do I think that I could be wrong? And it would be when stuff like this gets stopped, because it's clearly irresponsible and clearly going to damage people more than it's going to help them.
Yeah.
So when you see it get declined, you go, oh, wow, that's a kind of an acorn of goodness, where you go, wow, they're not going to print yet another 1.7 trillion. But then let's just see where we are in 2 or 3 months, because I think they're going to pass it anyway and they're going to print it.
Yeah. I just think it's a matter of time, because for them to hold fast and not do it at all altogether, no, I don't see that happening.
Did you see as well, by the way, in the article that I linked, they said that they linked it to climate change.
Yeah.
So by not doing this, not only it's meant to be just be about Build Back Better was supposed to be Build Back Better after the fact they fucked it due to lockdowns.
Yeah.
But now they're going, oh, and by the way, we also need this to fight climate change. They're like double barreling it, and you just go,
yeah.
And if people knew what it meant, you know, like by agreeing to this, because I think so many people virtue signal and go, this looks good. But if they really thought about it and go, do you know what material that's going to cost you?
Yeah.
Do you realize by saying that, that's you're like $2 or $3 grand a year worse off now? Are you still as positive?
Well, they've literally tried to lump everything into one. I found the paragraph where it basically says it also provides significant funding to address a range of environmental injustices which have led to Black, Latino, Indigenous, and other marginalized Americans being disproportionately exposed to the harmful effects of fossil fuel pollution, aging infrastructure like lead pipes, emerging toxins, and the climate crisis. Okay, then. So that's why we need the money. We need to print this money. It's like they just try to go for a catch-all.
It's everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we save puppies and kittens.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, come on.
Yeah. So, you know,
what was the last like 4 trillion for? What was the 2 trillion for before that? The 2 trillion before that? Like,
yeah.
And there's so many things hidden in this Build Back Better bill, isn't there? I remember someone carrying it. It was like this big, and I think they had 2 days to read it.
Yeah.
It was like 200,000 pages long. It had everything in it, like literally everything. And like the entire, like every single department of government was getting more money. And you go, well, hold on. Like you said, it's a catch-all. Like every single department went, do you want more money? And they all went, yeah, of course they did.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, like, because there's been a lockdown, everyone's just up for spending money. So we're just going to force it all into this. And everyone will just sign it off, because it's easier to get one big number signed off than it is 10 smaller ones.
Absolutely. It's classic sleight of hand, isn't it? Look at the money. I'm giving you the money. There's the money. And we've just taken your trousers down.
Yeah. And then Biden's going to get retired or die in 2 years. And it'll be like, the next person that comes in will be, oh, well, yeah, he was incompetent. So, yeah, well, the money's gone. I need 2 trillion and I'll fix it. You know, oh my God. Like literally, how many times do we need?
Yeah. Well, Kamala Harris will carry on, won't she? And it'll be like, well, I technically wasn't in charge then, so I am now. I'm gonna need some more money.
Yeah, Biden spent $500 billion on a stair lift.
And you know he's gonna have a state funeral as well. The equivalent.
It wouldn't surprise me, you know, if he just goes super quiet. It's going to be one of them where I think he something happens to him. I think he'll mentally decline to a point where he can't even pretend to read off a teleprompter, and I think it'll be so embarrassing and so like expose the fact that he's been doing nothing for so long that they will just kind of phase him out, and then he'll just be pushed into the background.
Yeah,
and you won't hear anything from him occasionally you see some puppet that looks like him waving out of a window. You're like, did he die? And they'll just leave it like 10 or 20 years. And they're like, Biden's 114 now. Is he still alive? And they're like, he's still waving. That's a puppet. No, it's not. Just because they don't want any fanfare, because people like me would just be going, told you he wasn't competent to be president.
Now, she's nothing to do with Bitcoin whatsoever, but somebody that is going to get faded into the background is Ghislaine Maxwell.
Oh, yeah. Convicted.
Yeah. Now, we don't know how many years. We suspect probably going to have life imprisonment, but she probably has some names in her head that are as important, if not more important, than the 24 seed words. So how's that going to work? How's that one going to play out?
Yeah, who knows? She'll be isolated. They'll say it's for her own safety. They'll isolate her, so she'll never have a cellmate, no one to talk to.
She's already been isolated for the last whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't matter, does it? She's got no one to tell. And all the evidence that she had that had all the names in it was suppressed and wasn't allowed to be public. So the whole trial was pretty much a bit of a sham, as in the public didn't get to know hardly any of the evidence against why she was convicted. We didn't get to see it.
Yeah.
So it basically just went, we're going to throw her under the bus and convict her of everything that we know she did, because it would be too obvious if we let her off. So she's now the scapegoat, the same as Jeffrey Epstein was. And obviously they're not innocent by any means, but they are the scapegoats. They're like the grunts that were doing the bad deeds, but on behalf of a load of very rich, wealthy guys.
Yeah.
That were benefiting from this stuff, and all their names have been kept out of it. And that's the disgrace. If it was a real trial, we'd have heard everything. And then a load of subsequent trials would have spawned out of this one.
Yeah.
Where you would have individuals that have kind of gone to Epstein Island, engaged in whatever they engaged in, and be prosecuted for that, and have the victims have justice. The fact that all that got suppressed, because surely, right, she's been now convicted of running a pedophile ring for Jeffrey Epstein. Who was she running it for? Like, who were the clients?
I know, he's only one man.
Like, we know who the clients were. They're all in the fucking flight manifest going to Epstein Island.
Yeah.
It's the Clintons, it's Bill Gates, it's some potential pop stars, footballers, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. There's a lot of old rich guys that went to that island. There's some royalty. They're the names. So surely now that she's been convicted, you would expect dozens of subsequent cases to pop up to go, right, we're now going to prosecute the men that allowed this business to work, to function, because she couldn't have built a business on selling underage girls if there was no guys to buy them. So who were the guys? They suppressed all the evidence, which to a certain extent, I almost agree that maybe some of it was suppressed, because who knows what names she's written down. Some of them might be bollocks. So you don't want to have everyone labeled as a paedophile just because she wrote it in a diary or something.
Yeah.
Maybe you analyze that data properly, and then just, but what I'd want to see is a load of trials happening over the next couple of years, a load of people being investigated to go, right, you were in her diary. Where were you on these days, these times? Why were you on this flight? What happened? Interview the girls that were involved and build up a whole case.
Yeah.
I don't think any of that's going to happen. I think this is it. It's buried now. It's done. We prosecuted one person who was basically just the gopher. And now all the people that were actually running it and funding it, which are the super elite rich guys, I think they all get off scot-free.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
Oh, well. Again, this will be another thing, right? I'd admit I'm wrong. If there's dozens of people go and get prosecuted now, great. It actually means the justice system's working. But I don't think it will.
We don't know So the next one I've got is
for the
week. Gold is going to take all Bitcoin's value over the next 10 years. So the link that was in there. So yeah, Bitcoin to gold ratio.
It's a nonsense chart.
Yeah, I'm looking at the chart and I'm like,
it's an arc. So this is essentially Mrs. No Show sent me this. Well, she tagged me in it. And I just went, do you want to get blocked? And he just went, what? And I was like, what is this? This is just this is a chart that apparently shows Bitcoin going up from 0 to basically 69,000, and then just charts it going, this is the top, and now it's down only. And in 10 years time, we're back to 0 again. And I just go, you could have drawn this dumbass graph at any point in Bitcoin's history. Like, I could draw a fucking dinosaur on Bitcoin's price. It doesn't mean it's going to be like, what? And I don't even know what this is. But this account is actually quite well followed, and it's quite a big account. And like, again, it's Goldbugs. Just they think that for some reason the last 10 years has been an anomaly, and Bitcoin's eaten like 10% of gold's value. And they think over the next 10, everyone realizes gold is the true asset and it all gets it back. They're so wrong. The Bitcoin taking 10% over 10 years, the only thing wrong with that is it was too slow. We're going to take it over the next 10, we're taking the 90%.
Yeah.
So, the chart's a load of crap, but yeah, ignore it.
I mean, ultimately, we know that gold is a $10 trillion asset class. And right now, cryptocurrencies is over 2 trillion and Bitcoin is over 1 trillion. So lots more to go yet.
Yeah, that's our next 10x. Our next 10x is just gold.
Yeah.
The 10x after that is fiat. Fiat and property.
Yeah, do you know what? Seiko also talks about the bonds market as well, because that's showing shit returns right now. So ultimately, there's money to be had there. And I think he mentioned it being somewhere in the region of $140 trillion market as well. So because of its poor performance over the last couple of years, that could certainly be one to look out for. Right.
The first time ever, we've got 2 FUDs of the week.
Yeah.
You had a late entry, you added one, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Do you want to go for your one first?
Well, it's weirdly, I can't see the link now because I clicked. It's the Financial Times.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's the whole Bitcoin is a Ponzi. Well, it's worse than a Ponzi because it's also a pump and dump. I can't remember what they were saying now. I read the article. The Financial Times is so annoying. It lets you read an article once and then you click it on it again a couple of days later and it tries to get you to subscribe. It tricks you. I'd rather they always put this subscription thing on so I know not to even bother. But yeah, it was this is from a friend of ours, isn't it? They wanted to discuss it.
So first of all, I'm glad you're listening. Keep on listening, subscribing, sharing, but you're wrong.
Because I must admit, I googled. Actually, I can't even see the article now. It's so annoying because the guy who wrote the article, I googled him. I can't see his name now, but he's not an investor. He's not an economist. He's just, I think he writes on like social type of stuff as opposed to economic or investing, even though he writes for the Financial Times. And I don't think it was a proper, I think it's an opinion piece as well. It wasn't even an approved piece. But he essentially calls Bitcoin a huge Ponzi scheme. And even though it's not just collapsed once, it's done like 4 different cycles. He just goes out some kind of clever pump and dump dynamics. And eventually it all goes to 0 and Yeah. And I think, and I must admit, I read this article and I felt like I was back in 2015 going, come on, the fact that Bitcoin's a Ponzi, that's so done now. That was like the first 5, 6, 7 years, there was a possibility, like maybe, who knows? But come on, we're so like, we've got companies buying it, countries buying it, the smartest investors in the world buying it. It's not a Ponzi, right? It's just clearly not a Ponzi. And it's also not a pump and dump. Because, and obviously we're going to link into it, and this is the great rebuttal from Lynn Alden. I'm so glad Lynn.
Oh my God.
She's actually one of my highlights in 2021, actually. Lynn coming into Bitcoin has been such a revelation because she's such a good writer.
Yeah. Because I think you put it in the notes as well. Yeah. So, if I had to pick a celeb or a person from 2021, it definitely would be Lynn, because she, like all really good people that you then had come to admire, she makes the toughest subjects so simple to understand and lays it out in layman's terms. But of course, she's super well researched, and she can not only write it, but she can say it and articulate it as well in whatever form. So if you hear her on an interview, she's really well spoken.
Yeah, because she goes through it, doesn't she? She goes like, to be a Ponzi scheme, you need overly consistent returns.
Yeah.
So
it's probably worthwhile just setting the context. Sorry, just to say, just so where this has come from is ultimately the foot of the week is ultimately is Bitcoin a big Ponzi scheme stroke pump and dump hybrid? And we, of course, don't believe that. And Lynn Alden has gone through what exactly is a Ponzi scheme and the characterization behind a Ponzi scheme. And I've heard Peter McCormack, who we'll come on to as our end final story, talk about Lynn's articles that she releases every month for her subscribers. But so she does a paid version, and then she also does a free version as well. And even the free version is amazing, as we'd expect, and I'm sure the paid version is too. So in this article, originally published in January 2021, because people are still in this day and age thinking that it's a Ponzi scheme. Well, Lynn dispels all of those rumors. So, over to you.
Yeah, I think to be honest, I can't even say it better than Lynn says it. And it's just spend 5 minutes reading it. I think the main one for the Ponzi scheme one, right? It's the main thing is the money disappears into a fund. They say they're doing a thing, and really they're not. And they're paying you back with other investors' money. That's what a Ponzi scheme is. There's some type of fraud happening in the middle where the person you're paying to give you your gains isn't doing what they're saying. They're pretending to invest in a thing. They're pretending to do some type of service, and they're not doing it. All they're doing is collecting more money and giving little bits of that to you to give you the illusion of profit. Like if that was Bitcoin, who's the middle guy?
Yeah.
Just who is it? The code and the white paper are open source. You can have a look at them. So where is the fraud? It's just money. It's a scarce money. You can either buy it or you don't. There's no, if you buy Bitcoin, there's these secret 20 guys that are going to build a bank for you, and they're not really doing it. And if they do it, you get paid loads. Like, no, there's none of this weird, there's no promises. If you buy Bitcoin, all it means is, well done, you're a Bitcoiner. And you hope more people come in and buy Bitcoin as well. So that then goes, so you're just buying it to then sell it later for more money. Oh, that's a Ponzi scheme. No, that's everything. That's any valuable item that you ever purchase. That is largely why you buy it on investments. And why would you buy any stock, any shares, any bonds? You buy it to sell it to someone at a higher price. That's just investing. That's value investing. But Bitcoin has the additional side effect of, oh, guess what? Not only can I sell it for more, I can use it as money in the future as well. I think this is going to become literally the monetary scheme for the globe. That is why I buy Bitcoin. It's like buying gold before people realized it was gold as the monetary value of the world. So it's just the ultimate investment, like a once in every 500-year type opportunity. And then it moves on to, okay, so I think it's quite clear it's not a Ponzi. It clearly isn't. There's no single person in the middle running it, committing some type of fraud, promising gains, and then delivering it via illicit means. Just tell me the person. Is it Satoshi? If it is Satoshi, then what does he matter? Like, he doesn't even exist. Anyone could buy and sell Bitcoin. It's been going for 13 years. Come on, like, just no. It's like worth $1 trillion. Like, at some point, if someone's got a secret key to Bitcoin, like, you just sold it before $1 trillion, right? And then then it's just a big pump and dump then, some kind of pump and dump hybrid. Well, the reason why things are called pump and dump is because you typically only get one pump and then one massive dump. It goes up from zero to something crazy and then back to zero again. Bitcoin has not done that. It went from zero, it pumped, then it did dump, but then it pumped again, then it dumped, then it pumped again, it dumped, then it pumped again, and each pump and dump went higher than the last one. So that is not that. All that shows is that there was FOMO and kind of overexcitement, that people find Bitcoin and then they buy too much of it too quickly, and the rest of the market isn't really with them. So that gets these very volatile pump and dump type kind of metrics and charts. But a real pump and dump, in my mind, is, say, an ICO. An ICO in 2016, they were pump and dumps. They went from zero to something crazy in 2016. They went to zero in 2017. I think that's the same is going to happen on NFTs. NFTs went from zero to crazy money in 2021. I think they're going to go to zero in 2022 and 2023. These things only have one cycle. They pump, everyone realizes they're worthless, they dump. They're done. They never come back. They stayed 99% down forever. Bitcoin has gone down over 85% 4 times and then pumped 500% past it. Why would that happen? Like, on the dump, usually what happens is the entire market realizes they were sold a dud. And you never go back when you've been sold a dud, because the scam's been exposed. But in Bitcoin, that didn't get exposed. It's just some people bought too high. They over leveraged. They bought with Bitcoin with money they didn't have. They loaned it or whatever. So then they were pressured. They sold. They didn't understand that kind of the technology. But over time, we just keep getting more and more Bitcoiners kind of understand. And then the people that are holding Bitcoin goes up and up, and the price has gone up. So it's the opposite of a pump and dump, the opposite of a Ponzi. It's the soundest investment ever. It's the most transparent investment you can ever have. You can literally go and review the code. And I must admit, like, I'm not smart enough or technical enough to review the code. So I went in to Bitcoin Twitter, found some very technical guys that I listened to their podcast. I read their books. I read their articles, realized they're very technically competent, and then listened and read their criticisms and reviews of the Bitcoin source code. And then you listen to those guys and go, right, the code is sound. It is what it is. And you literally can't get more transparent. It's every transaction on the blockchain you can watch. You can see who owns what Bitcoin on what addresses. You can see who holds for how long. You can literally see everything. It's better than investing in Amazon. And Amazon's a publicly limited company and has to issue their accounts every 3 months. But Bitcoin does it in real time.
In real time. Yeah. 24/7, 365.
Yeah. It's like there is no inner circle of Bitcoin. It's just fucking there. I still can't believe we're still getting Bitcoin is a Ponzi or a pump and dump. I get it, but I think it's just I think this probably links right the way back to probably almost what we're discussing, I think, before we press record, which is the programming of what money is today. If you're still in the world where you believe the money of today is sound and the politicians are telling you the truth, then yeah, Bitcoin won't make sense to you.
Yeah.
Because it's fuck you money, right? It's fuck you to all those guys. And if you're not comfortable saying fuck you to those guys yet and going, you're lying, then you won't get it. And you will believe that it is a pump and dump, because it has to be, right? If it isn't real, it has to be a pump and dump. But once you realize it's real, it just all clicks.
Yeah. It's hard though. As I say, it's not meant to be easy. You've got a lot of unwiring to do for a lot of people, a lot of unwiring. It's not your fault that you were told to save and brought up to save and instead of investing.
Yeah. Because
what is hard money or sound money? You know, you're not taught this. Even the word, you know, fiat. Like, what is that? It's not just a car company.
I know. We're not taught any of these things in school, are we?
No.
You'd think that, as we clearly know, the most important thing to any government is its money. You would think you would want your population to have a deep understanding of money if it's that important.
Yeah.
But it turns out that it's very important for the government to understand money and its people to be very unknowledgeable about the money. So they keep working for the money that they have no knowledge about how it works.
Correct.
The second they do, they'll stop working. They're like, fuck this game's corrupt. It's like playing a game of Monopoly and one guy is sat next to the bank taking money out for himself every turn. You go, this is bollocks, I'm not playing. I'll flip the board up. I'm not playing this game. Start again and I'm sat next to the bank. Or we play fair and the bank's over there. And someone has to get up and walk to the bank. Someone else walks with them and verifies that they only take out what they were allowed to take out.
Yeah.
No sneaky little £500 little slips under the table. And that's what the fiat system is. It's the certain people sat next to the bank and they're just taking money for themselves. The second the plebs realize it, there'll be uproar and they'll stop working. That's why all Bitcoiners are so passionate.
Because playing Monopoly the paper way and the old school way, then as you said, you can cheat and you can take money out of the bank. But we have the digital version of Monopoly and you can't do that.
Can you not just add more money onto your little account?
No, because you've got like a digital ledger, which you've got a bank card, and then you place your bank card onto your ledger, and then everybody in the game can see when you add your 200 as you pass go. So it's all in plain sight. There's no sneaky backhanders. Oh, this 200 just slipped into mine. Yeah, none of them.
If only our digital money worked that well. Unfortunately, it just means they're tapping their card on that 200 constantly, and you're just like, you can't see that they're doing it. It's not as. It sounds like they've solved cheating in Monopoly. They haven't solved cheating in the fiat system.
No,
I like that. But then part of me still wants the Monopoly money. It's still a good meme.
Yeah. And finally,
Bitcoin has bought a football club.
Okay.
So it's Peter McCormack, Bedford.
I didn't know he was that rich.
He's not.
I mean, it's Bedford, isn't it? You know, so
their yearly budget's 15k.
Well, right, okay.
And I think what he's managed to do is
no money down deal.
I think maybe a little bit, but he's managed to raise £500,000 of sponsorship from his Bitcoin contacts. So he's leveraged his podcast contacts with, look, this is great marketing for Bitcoin anyway. We're going to buy a football club. There's something like 9 divisions down or something crazy.
Yeah.
They're in South Midlands League Division 1, which is 9 divisions below the Premiership.
Wow.
So they're right down the bottom.
Yeah.
But have you seen his logo and stuff? It's called it. He's renaming Bradford. I think they're just called Bedford FC. I think.
Yeah.
He's renaming them to Real Bedford. You put Real in front of it.
Oh,
Instead of putting East, like established, and a date, he's put block 712003. So when Bitcoin, what block in Bitcoin did they establish? He's got a skull and crossbones.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
But that's because he's a freaking heavy metal guy. So he just likes that as death metal. Nothing to do with Bitcoin. Obviously, the orange and black is Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Orange, black, and white. And you've seen the football kits. The football kits look pretty sweet.
Oh, yeah, okay, with the B on the side.
Yeah. The orange and black.
Yeah.
I think he'll make a lot of money. I've seen what he's doing on Twitter, and he's going to live stream all the matches. He's going to sell merchandise globally. He's going to let people kind of invest and sponsor Bedford. And you go, you know what? He's got 500,000 followers on Bitcoin, on Twitter. I think he had 11 million downloads on his podcast. He's got a big following because he's one of the first. Maybe he'll make some money. But I must admit, I look at this and I think he's overstretching. I think he's got too many things going. I think he's got his podcast. He's traveling a lot. He's buying his football club. And I followed the Twitter account of Real Bedford, which, by the way, the deal still hasn't closed for this. It's hilarious. He's agreed a deal for an amount of money for Bedford, and he agreed it in this, like the end of December, but all the lawyers were off, so they haven't signed the actual contracts yet. Yet he's announced it. He's done all the PR. He's done the logo. He's done the kits. But when he got asked about it on Twitter, they went, "Oh yeah, I haven't actually signed the contract yet because the lawyers aren't in." Like, that's, mate, you're jumping the gun here. Like, anything can happen when you get down to the final bit of the contract. Anything could be in there that kiboshes it.
Yeah.
But I also saw some fans on there going, "What is this? You're making this a laughing stock. What's the Real thing? Why a skull and crossbones? And I don't like Bitcoin." It's almost like too many things.
Yeah.
Like, you've literally just ripped out the soul of a football club and just made it like his personality is this club. And I think if you're going to do this, you set up a brand new football club for this. Don't buy someone else's and just rebrand it in the space of 2 weeks. Like, maybe even a week. Like, how did he even do it this quick? He hasn't even bought the club yet. He's got a logo and a freaking kit. So
crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
He went bust in 2017.
Oh gosh.
And I've got a feeling he might go bust in 2022.
Yeah.
Buying a football club, we all know, like, is not like financially sound. Like, you buy a football club as a hobby. When you're rich, you throw a couple of million at a football club. You might have another 10, 20, 30 million sloshing about, play money, and you throw it in and buy some players and see what happens. But he's talking about going to the Premiership. Mate, you need to be a billionaire to get the Premiership, like proper billionaire status. Like, it's the richest guys on the planet, and it's got Abramovich, like the oil barons of Dubai. Like, these guys are the rich. Like, these guys will spend 10 million on lunch. Like, never mind. So he's not getting to the Premiership, let's be honest.
Peter is dreaming for sure.
Yeah,
like,
I hate to predict it, but I think this is going to have a sad end.
Yeah, I do as well. I think they can definitely raise some money. They can raise awareness. They might get a few more decent players playing for them, certainly at that very, very low league in terms of level of what they're playing at. So they can probably jump a few leagues, but that's going to be where it ends. It's going to be no fairy tale ending here, I'm afraid.
Yeah, the manager and the assistant manager have already resigned.
Yeah.
They released a statement on Twitter saying something about they don't agree with the new direction the football club has taken.
Yeah.
The problem is, like, say he's raised, like, their budget was 15 grand last year, which is just, I don't even know how you. It's obviously like a grassroots amateurish. Like, obviously, no one's getting paid.
No,
that's not even one salary.
That's just probably keeping the lights on, paying for the ground, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but once you raise 500,000, it sounds great, but really, what does that mean? It pretty much means, oh, great, maybe you can employ like 10 people. That's not even a squad and a manager. So it's not actually any money, is it? Like, you're still part-time-ish, and it's in a very weird position of what do you do with that money. But hey, I hope it goes well. He said he's not going to do NFTs. He's not going to do Bedford coin. He is Bitcoin only, which has to be commended. And I'll be supporting it. I quite like the kit. I might buy a kit. Fuck it. Who knows? And but yeah, I think he's already being a bit. He's quite prickly on Twitter. Like, he's blocked numerous of my accounts for like challenging him on various points. I don't like the way he goes about stuff. And I've already seen him on his Real Bedford Twitter account. And he says he's doing everything for the fans, and like he wants to bring attention to Bedford and all this kind of stuff. But then the fans are going, we don't like it. And he just tells them to shove up their ass. It's like, mate, this isn't. If you're going to say you're doing this for Bedford, and then some of the Bedford fans say they don't like it, you can't tell them to shove it up their ass. That's not really how it works. But whatever. I think he's going to set fire to it. But it'll be funny to watch. And maybe I'll buy a kit before that team folds.
It'll be a collector's item because I'm sure there won't be that many. So, well, he says he's not doing NFTs. He's actually doing NFTs.
Yeah. I'll do an NFT that's a football kit. I'll wear it. It's,
yeah.
It looks like might get the black kit with a nice big B on it. Don't know. Just put like a Liverpool sticker over his dumbass. Stupid skull and crossbones. I'm not a big fan of that. But
no.
But no.
There you
the
have
bag,
it.
First one of the 2022.
Yeah, as always, like, share, comment, subscribe. Anything that you want us to cover off, hit them up in the comments. We'll be sure to read them, and yeah, leave the reviews as well on whatever streaming service that you're listening to us on. He's been Mr. All In. I'm Sir Never Look. She was here, but she's never here. Mrs. No Show. And Dr. Evil 10%, the 4Bs podcast, Pod 37. Peace.
Fellow plebs, if you want to hear us, then yeah, tune in.